Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Brachah Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And we're back again with some more updates, on current events, linking it with biblical prophecy. And so I have a few headlines on here as things are continuing to progress and get more, this what people perceive might have been a short situation. And I'm not talking about people that are learned. People that are learned knew that this wasn't going to be something that would end overnight. This wasn't going to be a repeat of Venezuela. Definitely not. But now as we're going into the fourth week or so, if not, I believe like the fourth week or so of this Iran war, and the gas prices are going up, things are getting tighter and tighter, right? And reality is starting to set in. And so here, this article deals with small businesses sounding alarm over record diesel prices. And sometimes people look at gas prices because that's what they buy for their cars. If most people drive like a regular SUV or a sedan, and so mainly you're buying that regular gas or maybe premium. But sometimes people look at diesel and they'll say, oh, well, it's going up to $5, but I don't use diesel. So in here, you're going to see how interconnected all these things are. Why is it that even when diesel prices and other, kinds of things that use oil go up, why that eventually circles back to you? Okay. So it says here, going to cripple our economy. Small businesses sound alarm over record diesel price spike. The latest AAA or AAA fuel data from across America shows that the national average diesel price at the pump has jumped nearly 40% this month, surpassing the 2022 fuel spike that followed Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Surging diesel prices are already generating a shock across trucking, rail, shipping, farm equipment, construction machinery, generators, and much of industrial logistics, given that the fuel powers the core of the economy. So now you start to think a bit broader here, right? These prices, okay, are causing shocks across trucking. Trucking alone is a big enough deal, because truck drivers drive a lot. Okay, they drive a lot. They drive interstate. They drive long distances to transport things from one place to another. You have cars that get transported. You have food that gets transported, medical equipment transported. Damn near everything that you use when you go to a store to buy has to come there. It has to make its way there. And that's through traveling. And most of the time, that's through the trucks that are transporting it from one area to another. So when diesel prices or gas prices or whatever goes up, it costs more to transport these things. And when it costs more, now these whoever is feeling the shock first passes it on to the next. So the truck drivers or the companies that they work for pass it on. They try to offset the damage, through the pricing onto whoever it is that is hiring them or using their services, being these stores and so on. Okay. And what are those stores going to do? They're going to increase the prices of their goods because it was harder to get those goods. So the price margin increases on every front, and it lands on you because you as a consumer, you don't get to pass on this cost anywhere else. And it's not like your jobs are coming out and saying, oh, we'll help you by increasing. We'll give you like an inflation bonus or something, right? We'll increase your amount so that we can offset. No. They're not doing that. So all the truck driver says, oh, it cost me this more, so you're going to have to pay this much more. The store says, okay, fine, we'll pay this much more, but we're going to increase prices this much more. And then you go to the store and they're all looking at you like, hello, time for you to cover for our loss. And you're going to do it because you need those things. You need your rice. You need your water. You need your milk. You need your eggs. You need your bread. You need your staple foods, right? On top of that, that's on the food side of things, right? Think about the medical side of things. Your medical bill is going to go up because when these hospitals that need these or these pharmacies that need these whether it's drugs, whether it's materials, instruments, the defibrillator that you use, the whatever blood monitoring or blood pressure monitoring devices, and all of these things that are in the beds, right, the computers, all of those things, they have to now pay more for whatever it is, especially the things that they use more, like syringes and scalpels and all those extra things, right? So now your medical bill is going up because some way, somehow they need to bake that in there. So think about all the services you use. Eventually, when their prices go up, you pay for it. This is why dropping bombs and going to trigger a war with a country that has control over the Strait of Hormuz that can do such economic damage is a quote-unquote bad idea for a lot of people. This is how it eventually circles back to affect you. But here's the even better part. They're only getting started. Anyway, because Trump has given them, and I think one of the other headlines goes into that. He basically came out and said, look, we've given Iran 48 hours, which yesterday he said that, to open the Strait of Hormuz, or was it one of their energy plants or so that was going to be attacked? Iran came right back and said, listen, bro, unless you want to see hell on earth, you had better not. Because if you attack ours, everything from oil refineries, energy centers, power plants, data centers, all of that is getting hit. Anyway, let's read a little bit more. It says companies now face 3 difficult choices if they do not lock in fuel prices before the spike: absorb the impact and accept margin compression, add surcharges, or raise prices. Last week, Rapidan Energy's and right now the economy is not even in a state to where it can handle this. Director of Refined Products, Linda Gasek, told us that unlike 2022, the current tightness reflects physical supply disruptions rather than policy risk and trade reshuffling. That's very key. Physical supply, and in fact, what Iran said was they're going to cause irreparable damage to the supply of oil and energy and so on. Irreparable means you can't repair it. So as as Linda is saying over here, the problem with this is this isn't be due to like some policy change or like, based on what's going on here, it can lead to this risk or that risk or so. No. This is the actual source, the supply that you're getting that's been disrupted. So this isn't something that, we decided to, change our policy or enact this or do that, and then everything calms down again. No. There's no way around the supply disruption. It's literally, if it's physically damaged, it's physically damaged. No amount of words is going to change that. We'll just call her Linda. Linda warned that if the fuel spike proves prolonged, global economic growth could suffer because of diesel's close link to industrial production and freight activity. And this is what a lot of people don't think about. I'm not a truck driver. Why does it affect me? Why do you think truck drivers exist? You got to think about it, right? Like, why do you think they exist in society? Because there's a need of them, right? And some way, somehow, that need affects you. But people don't look deep into it, so they don't care. Bloomberg NEF forecasts that $5 per gallon diesel could inflict a weekly $6 billion or more hit on the U.S. economy because these surging fuel costs hurt truckers, construction firms, and farmers the hardest. With prices at $5 and this is like 20 cents, either 20 or 2 cents, as of Friday, that weekly hit is set to rise next week. So it's trending upward, okay? And the thing is, time doesn't stop. It keeps on going. And as time keeps on going, as things keep getting escalated, now you start to feel paying on an exponential growth level. Yesterday it was 2, today it's 6. You thinking it's going up to 3 and 4? No, today is 6. Before tomorrow, in the middle of today and tomorrow, is 12. That's how the pain level is going up when I say exponential. Okay, readers are already aware of the dire consequences of spiking diesel prices, as we've laid out in recent weeks, and there's some links for that. See what else we have on here. Here's one example of, or adding more color to the fuel that underpins nearly every stage of production and transport is a Bloomberg report warning that small businesses are sounding the alarm over surging fuel costs. Here's one example of a small business being financially crushed by surging fuel costs. Now, before I read this, keep in mind as well that I did a lesson on this, some days ago, but there's also been talks about some more, like I guess a different form of lockdowns. And instead of a endemic, right, that is triggering it, this is now triggered by an energy crisis, where you now need to have rations, where now they're going to tell you, look, you can't travel a certain distance a day, right? If you want to drive every other day. The buses are not going to be running on certain days. Trains are not going to be running on certain days. Limit your gas usage. Your Con Edison might start telling you, look, your power is going to be, if you exceed this level, we're going to have to cut your power for the next 24 to 48 hours. So plan accordingly. All of these things are ways to say we need to conserve energy. But it's also another way to say, yes, we now have more control over how you live your life. Whether you're cooking with gas or now you're cooking with an electric stove. So there's a whole lot of boxes that can be checked off with this crisis on here, which is, showing itself very quickly to actually be a poly crisis. So Roger Connor sells firewood for a living, but he might know just as much about another energy source, diesel. The fuel powers every step of the supply chain for his company, R.C. Connor Enterprises. The mega trucks that carry the logs from suppliers to his facility in Exeter, New Hampshire, the machines that offload the process and process those logs into kiln-dried residential and restaurant-grade firewood. Think about this. Just in the process of firewood, producing firewood at a production grade level, this is what goes into it. The first is the transportation to get there. Next is the machines, okay? As we're reading here, the machines that actually do the working of getting these things off of the trucks and processing them. Machines make cars, right? A lot of these factories use machines. So when it gets so bad that even price increases don't help because there's just not enough energy, there's not enough fuel, what do you have to do? If you have 10 machines running, you might need to cut it down to 5. If you cut it down to 5, that means you're producing half of the output you used to produce. That's where you have shortages. So the transportation, right, the machines that offload and process these logs, and the trucks that deliver the finished bundles and cords to customers across New England. So from getting the product there to, manufacturing it into a resupplyable state, and then actually getting it delivered, all of these things you have to worry about. Now check this out. It says here, in a normal year, Connor spends roughly $6,800 a month on diesel. Now it's about $11,000. That's close to double. To absorb some of the cost, he added a 5% fuel surcharge. When customers saw that, several walked away. If diesel keeps rising, we're going to have to keep on going up on our pricing. That's not just for him. People don't create businesses to lose money. There's a profit margin, which is whatever I charge you in that cost involves I had to first make up for the money I spent to get everything in a state where you can use it, but then I have to add some more so I can make money off of this. What's the point in me going and buying, raw materials, manufacturing it, and giving it to you, and I'm not making a profit off of that? It's just I just spend and then you pay me back for what I spent. I'm doing you a favor. No, 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 no. Businesses don't work that way. So he's saying here that, look, we got to keep on increasing our prices, but now people are walking away because they're saying the price is too high. He says here, but we probably won't have any sales, says Connor. This is going to cripple our economy. I don't think people think about how much the economy rides on diesel fuel. And these are things that people should be thinking about. So that's mainly that on this part. Let's move on to the next headline on here. I'll keep it, somewhat brief. It says here, Iran's first use of ICBMs. These are, in this context, not intercontinental per se, at least that's how it's worded in the article. It's intermediate intermediate range ballistic missiles. Raises serious questions about remaining arsenal, because for a long period of time, you could say the world underestimated the military capability of the Iranians, thinking, oh, they because they always are mainly using drones and rockets and certain short range missiles, we don't really got to worry much about that. Oh, okay. How about this? You see that distance right there? Where they shot those and they said they weren't even using some of their new high tech stuff. No. They said, look, when we were launching those drones and certain of those missiles, those are old. Like, if you're talking about 20 years old, 10 years old, do you know how quickly technology advances, especially now? So now people are a little on edge now. Now these nations that were saying this is not our war, yeah, the UK is starting to change their tune real quick. It says here, in a startling move that has military experts questioning their assumptions about Iranian capabilities, Iran attempted to hit the joint UK-US base on the Indian Ocean island of Diego Garcia with 2 intermediate-range ballistic missiles, or IRBMs. While US officials assured the Wall Street Journal that the base was unscathed, the Iranian strike aimed at a target roughly 4,000 kilometers from Iran suggests that the range of Iran's retaliatory capacity could be well beyond previous external estimates and claims made by Iran. This starts to put more fear into more people's minds. And I'll show a video real quick after this, because now the narrative is changing quite nicely, right? 'Cause now they're saying, look, you European countries thought you were safe? Think again. Because now they can reach London. Now they can reach this area. Now they can reach that area. So you still want to sit back on the sidelines? You still think that you should just let them go around and do what they want to do? So now you got people questioning, well, really, to what extent is their weapon capability? Do they have a nuclear weapon already? Do they have a weapon that can reach the United States? Now you don't know, because previously you assumed they didn't have. They only had short range, but now you just. So the point about that Diego Garcia thing is more like a warning. It's not like, oh, well, it didn't hit us, so we're relieved. No, it's the fact that it was potentially, right, it had potential to do damage, to even reach that area. It says here, according to 2 officials who gave the Journal a Friday night scoop on the story, one missile had a mid-flight malfunction, while the other was engaged by an SM-3 interceptor missile fired from a U.S. Navy vessel. It's not clear, however, if that interceptor actually hit its target, nor does the report indicate when the strike was attempted. So you got them, they basically tripping out in their minds right now, because they're like, yo, this threat is becoming more dangerous. And I did say I was going to pull this up here. Now, this is here from Nexta TV. And you have here the Israeli Prime Minister, Bibi, saying I'm going to read the quote first and then play it. It says Iran has already demonstrated it can strike targets thousands of kilometers away. For example, Diego Garcia around 4,000 kilometers. And it continues to expand its range, potentially reaching Europe. A clear signal is needed from President Trump so the entire world unites against what he called a terrorist and fanatic regime. This is not just a challenge for the US and Israel, it's a challenge for the entire world, and the time to act has come. Guess what? When you read in the letter from Albert Pike to Giuseppe Mazzini, there's a reason why they said World War III would start with the political Zionists and the Arab world. Now, this guy right here is openly saying, look, yeah, we went and triggered the war, but now we want to make it a world war. We want to drag in the world powers, because what's going to happen if more of these European allies join the war? Russia and China and other allies of Iran will not sit back. In fact, Russia recently just came out and warned U.S. and Israel, saying that continual killing of Iran's leaders is not going to go unpunished. So you better watch out. Now let's listen to this. Let me see if it has.
Israel is for the security. That Iran endangers the entire world the last 48 hours. The last 48 hours, Iran targeted a civilian area. They're doing that as a mass murder weapon. Luckily, no one was killed, but that's due to luck, not their intention. Their intention is to murder civilians. Second, they fired on Jerusalem right next to the holy sites of the three monotheistic faiths. The Western Wall, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And by dint of a miracle again, none of them were hurt. But they were targeting the holy sites of the three major religions.
Now, it's very interesting that he said that. I didn't know he was going to say that. What's interesting about that is you had this guy, was it Professor Zhang, who said that the Israelis are going to blow up the Al-Aqsa Mosque and try to blame it on Iran, because they know how much outrage that is going to actually spark should they do that. So today, he's pushing this, right? Saying that they're targeting these holy sites. That is to put it out there in your minds. So if in the future, one of these holy sites or multiple of them was actually, hit and destroyed, people would think back to say, oh, he did say something. He did say Iran was targeting. And it could be Iran or it could not. Could be somebody else and blame it on them because this is what they do. But keep your eyes on that. Keep your eyes on that too, because that is definitely not out the equation for them. They are very, very more than capable of, doing something like that, having a mass casualty event, because people are usually always around those holy sites. Okay, so keep that in mind.
Third, they fired an intercontinental ballistic missile on Diego Garcia. That's 4,000 kilometers. I've been warning all the time. They have now the capacity to reach deep into Europe. They already have fired on European countries, Cyprus. They are putting everyone in their sights. And fourth, they're stopping a maritime international route, energy route, and trying to blackmail the entire world. What more proof do you need that this regime that threatens the entire world has to be stopped? Israel and the United States are working together for the entire world. And it's time to see the leaders of the rest of the countries join up. I'm happy to say that I can see some of them beginning to move in that direction, but more is needed. President Trump's call to have the international community confront this terrorist, fanatic regime of zealots, that is a call not only for the security of America and the security of Israel, it's for the security of the entire world.
This, once again, it's to drag these nations into that world war. And they're doing it because the Lord he's saying these things because the Lord has put that spirit on them to come out and say this, to entrench the world in it, because that region is going to, in fact, it is right now acting as a vortex. And no matter how far and how much people try to, separate themselves and pull away from it, they are still getting, dragged and pulled into it, whether they want to or not. And that's what the Lord said. His determination is to gather the nations. So that's why all this is happening. And it's just continuing to escalate.
And it's time for them to act.
Sir, what will your response be to this attack on Israeli civilians?
We're responding with great force, but not on civilians. We're going after the regime. We're going after the IRGC, this criminal gang, and we're going after them personally, their leaders, their installations, their economic assets. We're going after them personally.
What does victory look like in this campaign?
Well, we've defined two clear goals. One is to break completely their nuclear program, break completely their missile program, break completely their capacity to produce the components for both of these programs. We're well on our way on achieving it. We've also set a goal of creating conditions for the Iranian people to overthrow this tyranny that has tormented them and made life miserable, and is making life miserable for the entire world. And I hope we achieve that too.
Overnight, President Trump said...
So, there you heard it. Ain't really much to say on that. Let's move on. There's one more here. This I'll just read the summary of. It says Iran threatens region-wide infrastructure obliteration. This is what I mentioned in the beginning of the lesson. As Trump's 48-hour ultimatum ticks down. Mass casualties in southern Israel. So it says here, Iran vows regional and U.S. infrastructure will be irreversibly destroyed. A synonym for irreparable. In response to Trump's 48-hour timeline to open Hormuz, or else Iranian power plants will be obliterated. Now, if they go ahead and attack Iranian power plants, Iran is going to do what they said they're going to do. And the world is going to feel that a whole lot more. Okay? A whole lot more. Because they still have stuff in the tank. And they still have allies. So this is, we're talking about, pain and suffering worldwide for a lot of people because of what's going on over there. Iran announces imposition. Now, what's interesting is, I thought this guy Trump said that I think yesterday he said they've blown them off the map. So who are you giving the ultimatum to? He said, oh, they try to reach out, but they're no more of their leaders because they're all cooked. They all, they've all been taken out. So who is the ultimatum to? Anyway, it says Iran announces imposition as a $2 million transit fee on non-enemy ships wishing to transit the strait. So they basically like, look, certain ships you can go through if you comply and you pay the fee, but enemy ships, don't even try it. Unprecedented damage and many dozens of casualties in Israel's south after tit-for-tat strikes on areas with nuclear plants. Now, there was a video. I don't know if it's in here. Yeah, you can see some of the damages here. But there was a video. I don't know if it's in here. But you had this old woman, in her apartment. And I think it was captured on one of the cameras from inside her apartment or where she was staying. And she's just there. And that's like a visual of sudden destruction. She's just there. And then I think her TV was on and everything. She's sitting in her couch. I mean, grandma-aged old lady, right? And she hears something, so you can see her reaction, right? She lifts up her head, and she's like sort of listening. And all of a sudden, boom, just a shockwave. Her windows break and everything. She gets up. She goes to the other side of the house. But literally, just like that, on within a second of hearing the sound, boom, it was hit. And had she been just a little bit closer, meaning where her house was, she would have been gone. Sudden destruction. Now, do you think she was joyous? No. Terrified. Completely terrified. And the world is about to be terrified as this thing escalates. And they start to see that, ain't no off-ramp for this. It says here, reports of U.S. prepping a diplomatic off-ramp plan. But Iran says expanding war has effectively shut the door. Bessent says 50 days of higher prices for 50 years of no Iran nukes and escalate to de-escalate. You know what he is? This guy Besson, he's the new Fauci, except on the war front. That's what his role is. Okay? He's not here to give you, honest information. This is just what it is. The 50 days here is just the 2 weeks that Fauci came out and said. Okay, that's all it is. It's PR and damage control for the people. Try to keep them calm. Try to say this, say that, say this. And before you know it, you in, day 60, day 70. What happened to 50 days? Oh, yeah, no, 50 more days. Yeah, these guys, man. So, anyway, this is Matthew chapter 24, verse 6. Again, straight to the point. And this is what Yahushua prophesied concerning the end of the world. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, which we're hearing and seeing now. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. And now you see why he said the end is not yet, because a lot of these other prophecies, you can see that the conditions for them making their appearance is being set up nicely by these wars and rumors of wars. Okay? That those wars that's laying down the red carpet for the MOTB, through the economic, collapse for all of these things. Okay, now you have due to the TSA turmoil, you have Trump saying that tomorrow, which is Monday, he's gonna send ICE to go over there and do that. Now, wait a minute, you at airports, you think ICE? What that's going to be is literally like I don't know, taking a kid to Toys R Us. That's the perfect place for them. They're going to be interrogating everybody over there. Step to the side for me, blah, 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 blah. So we'll see how that goes, but once again, there's a whole lot going on, right? You miss a day, you miss a lot. So you gotta stay on top. You gotta stay on it, stay on top of the news, keep your eyes open, pay attention, pray, because we're definitely in perilous times. So with that, I'm going to end it here, Lord willing. That was edifying and informative to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Recha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.